The Miami Marlins, they can pitch. Can they hit? I don't know. There's fish in that pond, and we're going across the pond to talk a little bit about the Miami Marlins on today's episode of Locked On MLB. What does that mean? You're going to have to find out.
You are Locked On MLB. Your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. Thanks so much for making us your first listeners. We're available on all your free podcasting catchers. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. You can tell by my lower third right there. Please call me Sully. Today's episode is being dropped on the 14th day of April, 2022. If you're in the United States, get those taxes ready. And we're going to be talking a little bit with Peter Pratt from Locked On Marlins about the state of the Miami Marlins. I'm sorry to bring up the idea of taxes in the United States. That's been a tricky subject with us for a little bit. I'll tell you why in just a second. Hey, follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at Locked On MLB Pods. And you can follow me. My private my personal Twitter is right there. Sully Baseball's on Twitter. Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And be sure to tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On MLB. Or check out some of the other great shows on the Locked On Podcast Network, including Locked On Marlins, with my guest today. In fact, I'm going to bring him on right now. No more further ado, no more entry here. Bringing aboard the host, the relatively new host of Locked On Marlins. Here he is, Mr. Peter Pratt. How you doing, buddy?
Sully, what an intro. What an intro, brother. That was sensational. I'm doing well. It's 4 minutes past midnight here in the UK, so perfect time for us to talk some baseball, right?
I was about to ask, what part of Miami are you from? Are you from Boca Raton? Are you from Fort Lauderdale? Where you are across the pond? And again, I hate to bring up the whole idea of taxes that caused some tension for us a few centuries ago. You're in the UK.
Exactly. You can't tell by the accent, right? Which part of Florida I'm from? No,
I know. It's not the background you have is not of Scarface, but it's more of it's a little more Merchant Ivory going on there, or maybe it was what's the name of that? What's the name of the new spy show with Gary Oldman? Was it Slow Horses? Is that what it's a great new show that's on like HBO. Okay, it's a show about MI6 with Gary Oldman. It's fantastic.
Sonny, you're taking me off on a tangent already. This is beautiful.
All right, there you go. By the way, I was in 2016. I was in London. I was working for a tech company at the time. I don't want to mention the company, but also their initials were HP, and I went over to do a business trip, and because I wound up meeting with members of the British Baseball Federation, and I met I have fans in England who follow the podcast, and we all met at a pub in London. We talked baseball because God forbid I enjoy a foreign country for what they have. No, I have to talk about, I did a podcast in front of Buckingham Palace breaking down the Arizona Diamondbacks infield because that's how I'm built. But
wow, I
found most of the Brits that I met there, and please forgive that term, a lot of them I met there were Mets fans. There were a lot of Mets fans there. And the reasoning was New York's proximity to London, and they felt that they can't root for the team that always wins because that would bring them joy. There's a sort of inherent, we must suffer, and so they chose the Mets. You took it a different turn. You're going to pick the Marlins. Okay. Explain.
Listen, that story you painted there of Brits following the Mets, because you can't follow the Yankees. And you're right, a lot of Brits will travel over to New York, sightseeing, doing whatever, the usual stuff. And so, we can't go with the Yankees. They're too big, too well-known. They're Man United. They're the Man United of baseball. You can't follow them, right? We'll go for the Mets. I took it to a whole different level and went No, the Mets are too good for me. There's too much joy even with the Mets. I want
Too
even
much
more
joy
pain.
for the Mets.
I want even more pain.
God.
Good
Oh,
Lord.
you can't enjoy life, can you? There's something about that is so, man, that is so puritanical. That is so, just whipping yourself in the back and like, no, I can't express joy or anything like that.
No.
Oh, man. So
Everyone
you
loves
you
an underdog. We just love an underdog here in the UK. And maybe that's more general in sports. People love to root for the underdogs, but I'm kidding. The story is more, and this is typical too for a lot of people I've met in the UK that follow baseball. A family holiday into Florida.
Mhm.
You go to a ball game, and that happened to be the Miami Marlins. Stanton was still there then, hit a home run. I didn't know Giancarlo Stanton was then. I didn't know, and Jose Fernandez was pitching. I never
Oh,
heard of him.
man.
I didn't know who he was.
Oh, I
I didn't
love,
follow
man.
baseball.
How the Jose Fernandez when he was alive was, I just had such joy when I watched him pitch. My favorite player of all time is Pedro Martinez,
Mm,
who at his peak with my team, the Red Sox, when at the peak with the Red Sox, when he pitched, it felt like a festival. He just was like, you it was must watch television because you knew that he was going to do something wonderful. And Jose Fernandez had that quality where it was
mm,
beyond just the fact that he was an outstanding, talented pitcher, but he had a flair for the dramatic and he had a joy for the game that made it so much fun to watch him pitch. It was fun to watch him win. And
yeah,
I'm still the death of Fernandez in, what was it, 2017, I believe it was,
hmm,
is still just an absolute it's devastating, absolutely
agreed.
devastating. So you went to the new stadium. You went to
Yeah.
Marlins Park.
This was in 2016. So
Okay.
that's my timeline on baseball. At that point, I'd actually been the year before. My brother lives in St. Louis, so he moved out there, and we went to Busch. It was my
Mm.
first ever baseball game. A
Right.
day game in Busch. No idea who they were playing, the Cardinals that day. I didn't really care, but it was fantastic. I was sat there sipping on beers all day, surrounded by Cardinals fans, and I was just like blown away by the fact that I was like, it was a Wednesday or a Thursday. Turned to my brother. I was like, Chris, does nobody work around here? Like, this game is happening through the day and it's
Mhm.
packed. And it was a stunning game. And I was just like, baseball is a lot of fun. I'm a big cricket fan, played a lot of
Right.
cricket as well as a kid. And listen, it's the
Mhm.
same passive watch. I like that type
Mhm.
of sport. Some people don't, but I was just like, baseball is fun. But I didn't feel a connection with the Cardinals that day. Just too many beers, maybe. I don't know what it was, but we went to Miami then the year after, and I was like, do you know what? Stanton hit a home run. It was a rainy day in Miami, thunder and lightning outside. There
Right.
was maybe 4,000 fans there. It was absolutely empty, of course. Stanton hit a bomb, and I went, you know what? Right here, right now, I've made my decision. Straight to the team store, bought a Stanton jersey, went, I'm in. I'm a Miami Marlin right now. This is 2016.
That's amazing. And you know what? I have said on this, I've said on this podcast, I said in the old podcast, Sully Baseball, that uh fans in Florida, the Florida team fans, the Rays and the Marlins catch a lot of flack
Hmm.
because of attendance issues and everything like that. I've stated that the fans who show up are among the best in baseball because they show up despite the fact that people say that they don't exist. They show up despite the fact that they'll never get credit for supporting the team. And I think that there's so many reasons to abandon the team and that they stood by them. For a while, the Marlins were the only team to never have lost a playoff series because
Exactly.
prior to the COVID season, they had only made the playoffs twice. They won the World Series both times. So, and when they won the first round against Chicago in
Yeah.
2020, I thought, oh my God, they're going to do
Here
it
we go.
again, aren't they?
Here we go.
Here we go.
For sure. I was the same as
Oh,
you. Listen, it was great as a fan because I was obviously was a fan in 2020.
right.
When they won the World Series, I wasn't, but it was great. But equally, I was slightly concerned that this record, like never lost a playoff series, was going to be ended, and clearly it was. The Bravos did the business against the Fish that year, but shortened season, nevertheless, fun ride for the Marlins fans that year in 2020. And looking back on it, I would have been very intrigued. Talking about Jose Fernandez and obviously Pedro Martinez, I
Mhm.
would have been very intrigued to see what a playoff run with a Sixto Sanchez going in 2020 would have looked like in terms of the actual attendance is really intriguing. We haven't seen Sixto back in 2021, so we haven't answered that question yet, I guess. But yeah, it was shame that it had to happen with no fans.
Yeah.
In Miami, for me, and obviously I'm not from the area, but when I kind of dig into it, what comes out is if a team's good and they're winning, the fans will come. And that's just the problem for the Fish. The last few years, they've just been so uncompetitive. The fans aren't coming. There's too much other things to do in the Miami area. So, yeah, I would have been intrigued to see the playoff run, what Lone Depot now would look like for sure.
Yeah, I think that I think a couple of things went wrong with Miami as a playoff destination or as a baseball destination. Tampa's a totally different story. Tampa, they built that stadium in the 80s and it sat there for a decade unused as a form of blackmail of, well, if you don't build us a stadium, we can always move to Tampa. And it just sat there. And by the time they finally put a damn team in there, it was already obsolete because it was built before Camden Yards showed everyone how to build this park. Miami was different because, they won a series right away, but they threw away all the goodwill by tearing the team down, I think during the World Series parade, that no one was left. And so there was a sense of mistrust that they never got to build. But the other thing was, and this is one of those things where it's kind of like when, how do you not know this is going to be a problem? When, like, the Rangers built an open-air stadium knowing that it's going to be a kiln in the Dallas area for most of the days. They built an open-air stadium in both Colorado and in Minnesota. Gee whiz, I so want there to be a Rockies-Twins World Series just so I could see the blizzard that takes place during the World Series.
It'd be beautiful, wouldn't it? Beautiful.
And in Miami, where they played in the football stadium for the first bunch of years, it's an open-air stadium. Gee, I wonder if there's going to be an issue with the weather and humidity and it raining every day at 4:02. You can set your clock to it in Florida. Yeah. Gee whiz, I wonder what's going to happen there. And I think that they discovered that for years and years, Miami was looked upon as the place a team was going to move to. Even the movie Major League, the Indians were being threatened to move to Miami. They didn't take into account so many people moved there from New York, from Boston, from Philadelphia, and they maintained their loyalty to their old team. And so the idea of adapting a new team wasn't in the cards. And so, if they built the winner right away and kept it together, I fervently believe if they kept the team together that won in 1997 and somehow built a goddamn dome, sorry, I swear in there, I do think that they would have developed the following, but there's so much mistrust in Miami that every time they put together a good team, they tear it down.
No. Seems to be the method, doesn't it? I mean, back in the day, you're right. Like you said, as soon as they're on the parades and players are being traded while they're on the parade, like it's crazy. So I'm with you. A lot of mistrust, no doubt.
Now, when you were there, did they have the statue? I have to know. Did they have the
sculpture was there?
I love that statue.
Yeah,
I love that statue. I want it back.
It may be back. I don't know. I mean, listen, Bruce Sherman arrived in. Jeter went, hey, listen, this needs to look more like Yankee Stadium. Let's go with the blue, out with the psychedelic green, statue outside. I don't know. I could see where they were going with that. Just a bit of fun, something a bit different, kind of Miami, right? It's an eccentric place.
I made a video, and I'll post it on. And I should have sent this to you. I made a video back before I had my podcast. I used to make a series of baseball videos, and one of them was, I think, in 2011, 2012. It must have been just before the stadium opened, and I was talking about how I loved that statue. I loved it because I wanted it. It was so weird, and I like weird in baseball. I like that. I think the thing I said in the video was, I want something that makes you know instantly what ballpark that is. Like, hey, what park has the statue with the dancing dolphins and Marlins on it? Is that Philadelphia or Miami? I can't remember. No, it's like it's immediately only one stadium has fish in the behind home plate.
Yeah.
I like weird because I don't want to. Part of my problem, when I grew up watching baseball, there was a lot of the what were called the cookie cutter parks that none of them exist anymore. There were these circular donuts where they play both football and baseball in, and they all looked exactly the same. And so they started building new stadiums. And the problem is these new stadiums are starting to look the same. Like Washington Stadium looks a lot like Philadelphia Stadium, looks a lot like St. Louis's Stadium. What I loved about the Marlins Stadium is like that doesn't look like anything.
Yeah. That's new.
That's Miami. And Miami's flamboyant.
Exactly. I'm with you.
So,
I'm
yeah.
with you on that. It was funny. For me, exactly. I'd been to Bush. I'd seen what Bush was about, and I went to Marlins Park. And you're right. You got the statue. You got the fish behind home plate. You got the Clevelander out there too, where everyone's out there in a swimming pool. In the ballpark. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Why am I sat behind home plate? I want to be in the Clevelander. That looks fun. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. And you know what? Look it's something else, and it's a surefire bet that the Marlins may not win the most games, but they're going to be a ton of fun to watch. It looks like it's a ton of fun to go to the game there. And if you're going to make any bets, go to betonline.net. It's your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's baseball season, the basketball playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs, all sorts of stuff is there. BetOnline continues to be your source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. BetOnline, that's where the game starts. And, hey, thank you for making Locked On MLB your first listen. Make Locked On Marlins your second listen. Why not? Let's help Peter Pratt get that. Have him sell some Built Bars. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, recaps of Major League Baseball games with analysis from local experts, taking fans through the season like no other network, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We are using today's modern technology to bring in Peter Pratt to the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm in LA. You're in where in the UK are you physically?
North of England, Leeds.
Leeds. Okay, you're in Leeds.
Yep. Yeah.
There you go. That's not Peaky Blinders territory, is it?
It's not. No, Peaky Blinders is Birmingham area.
Birmingham. Okay, there you go.
Yep.
I'm an ignorant American. Yes, but there you go. At least I knew. At least you knew where Peaky Blinders was.
There you go.
But Peter Pratt is here. He's in Leeds. Naturally, he's a diehard Miami Marlins fan. You know how it goes. Are you the biggest Marlins fan in Leeds? Let me just go on a limb here.
In Leeds, I'm going to say yes, firm yes on that. In Leeds,
yes.
In the UK, possibly.
Top 5
just
at least.
In general,
yeah,
maybe 2. I don't know. It's close. I mean, there's definitely a lot of Marlins fans I connect with on Twitter that are. They're very knowledgeable and excited about the Marlins team for sure. But yeah, in Leeds, 100%, I'd say biggest fan. UK, touch and go. There's a few Marlins fans, to be fair. There is.
There you go. All right, cool. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the 2022 Marlins. I think they're actually, they're not off to a great start. They've lost 4 of their first 5 games. It's never a good time in the season to drop 4 out of 5 games. But with that being said, there are elements to this team that I like. First and foremost is any team where you have Rogers, Luzardo, Lopez, and Alcantara as your 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not a bad starting rotation. Those are 4 pretty talented pitchers right there, and they have a couple of decent arms in the bullpen. I like the fact that they brought in Soler. So and Avisail Garcia, if for no other reason than, as I said, they need to make sure you have a major leaguer at each position. I think if they raise their offense to mediocre, they have a outside chance at having a winning season, which may be enough to at least be in contention for one of the wild card spots. What are your thoughts on? Am I out of my mind, or am I being too optimistic? Am I giving too much credit to the Alcantaras of the world, or am I onto something here?
Sully, you're absolutely right on mark here. This is exactly what the Marlins are. The pitching is so sexy, it's crazy. Those four dudes you listed. I'm gonna call it right now for you, Sully. That's four aces. Who
There
else
you
has got
go.
four aces? So listen,
Bryce.
absolute studs ready to rock and roll. And let's not forget, Max Meyer is sat there in AAA. He
Mhm.
had a perfecto going yesterday, Max,
Right.
through 5 at AAA, and he was pulled after the 5th inning, calf tightness or whatever. But Max Meyer has come out electric too. There's still a chance the Marlins just go, listen, Max, it's time for you now. You get up there, and that's 5 aces for the fish. So
And who knows what Sixto Sanchez is going to do if he ever comes up too? I mean,
6 aces.
yeah, the Sixto, yeah. But I mean, they have. I mean, the hardest part to do is to put together a good pitching staff with depth, and you just you look at it like if they just had maybe one or two more decent bats in their lineup.
Yeah.
Look at the National League is different from the American League. The American League, there is no one super team, and I do think a team, if you win 83 or 84 wins, you have a really good shot at getting that final wild card spot. There are better teams in the National League, and there are also worse teams in the National League, and so you do have Los Angeles, Atlanta, Milwaukee, San Francisco, San Diego, the Mets. The top tier teams, I think, are more talented. The bottom tier teams in the National League are dreadful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's really only one or two truly bad teams in the American League. So, the biggest thing working against the Marlins is the fact that the league is top heavy. But that being said, inevitably every single year there's a team that slumps.
Absolutely.
And what better way to take advantage of that than to outpitch the other team?
It's a recipe for success, in my opinion. So, but listen, Sully, like you said, if this offense can just be even mediocre, the word you've used, I think, is fair. If it can just be mediocre, the offense.
Yeah.
This pitching, if it's healthy, and that's a big if, right? But if the pitching is there, which it will be, the Marlins will win games on the pitching. They'll win it 1-0, 2-1.
Yeah. I love it. It says 1-0. I love it. Now, take it. Meyer is 23. Alcantara is 26. Lopez is 26. Luzardo is 24. Rogers is 24. Eliezer Hernandez, who didn't have a great start his first time, he's only 26, 27. So what I'm saying is that this is an important year for the Marlins, because if they keep this core pitching together next year with a full year under their belt, I think it's important that they take that turn. Now, I think this making the playoffs in 2020, I think, also was helpful, because some of the players on the team got to at least taste a little bit of what what some excitement in October can be, albeit in front of cardboard fans. But the fact that they did get to the division series, I think, was good for this team. But I honestly believe that, look, obviously the goal is to bring home the Marlins' third World Series title. But short of that, I do think that having a winning year, even if it's 82 and 80, would be such a giant step for this team. And knowing that the bulk of that pitching staff will be back next year, I really think that should be 82 wins should be what they're aiming for this year. Everything after that could be gravy. But to say we're a winning team, we're about to take that big turn, and I think this team can do it. I think this team has the talent to do it.
Completely with you. I mean, 82 should be what they're striving for, at least. It's a tough division. We can't get away from it, right? Even the Nats have started okay too. Like the Nats are out there doing okay. So it's a pumped up division full of big teams. The Marlins, though, they do. If they can get to 82 wins, and the interesting bit, I think, for this team this year is if they could just flirt around 500, they'll be buyers like they were in 2020. If they were knocking around 500, they went, do you know what? We're going to go out. We're going to get Starling Marte at the deadline in 2020. It was the biggest, I I guess, from a position player side anyway, the biggest move I think that any team made, and it was the Marlins making that move. If they're in the same spot this year, they'll do the same. They're still looking, I think, to upgrade. Like, they've had to piece things together in center field. The bullpen still needs a little bit of work. There's still some holes there, and but they've added some nice pieces. They need to play well early. They just really need to play well early. They have to. And like you said, they started 1-4. It's not great, but listen, they're out west. A multi-city West Coast trip to get the season rolling. It's a tough. It's in San Fran and then in LA for the Angels for Anaheim. It's tough start.
Keep in mind, in all probability, Correa is going to be a free agent again next year. Maybe they could give him one of those 1-year deals like he got from Minnesota. I mean, that's a bit of a stretch, but it's interesting. They're going to be there. They had the rough opening against a couple of really good teams. Well, the Angels aren't a really good team, quite frankly. They're the most frustrating team in baseball in some ways because they have the two most exciting players in baseball, and even in a mediocre American League, no one's talking about them getting the third wild card position. But you mentioned the Nats. Yeah, the Nats are not a great team going into this year, but they do have a potential front runner for the MVP. So anytime you have a player who's an MVP candidate on your team, you can't immediately write them off. This is I know this is strange to say because we're still in mid-April with 150 some odd games left to play. But that being said, the game that's being played on Thursday, the opener in what are they called? It's no longer Marlins Park. It's Lone Depot, right?
The Lone Depot, yep.
Rolls
off the tongue, doesn't it?
That's storied ballpark, Lone Depot Park. It's Marlins Park. Who are we kidding? They're going up against the Phillies, and Gibson, who had a tremendous first start. Alcantara is throwing for the Fish. This is an important game when you have these head-to-head matchups because the Phillies are one of the teams that are not everyone's favorite to win the East, but certainly have talent. And again, they have the MVP. They have several really good pitchers. They probably have images of a division title dancing in their head. And for a team like Miami to make any headway, they've got to win some of these games head-to-head to at least to paraphrase Nuke LaLoosh and Bull Durham, to announce their presence with authority. And, it sounds strange, but especially after stubbing their toe out of the gate, they've got to win a couple of series because, as you're saying, if they start the season like with 20 losses in April, that's going to put them behind the 8 ball in a way that there's
game
too
over.
much talent.
There's
There's too much talent in that division to expect this team to do that. But if they jump out to an unexpected start and keep some excitement going there, April can be important for a team if you want to be a surprise team. The key is to surprise. The
problem we're seeing is what we've seen thus far. It's only first 5 games, so we've got to be really careful about knee jerks. But it feels really similar to the 2021 start. And the Marlins just couldn't get going early doors. And all it meant was approaching the deadline, sellers at the deadline. Listen, I got to talk about it this week. Jesus Luzardo start, 12 Ks in about 79 pitches through 5 innings. It was just absolutely stunning. And that deal, on paper, it looked great. That deadline deal, Marte for Luzardo, it looked great then. He was a bit shaky last year, but listen, the Marlins, what have they shown? The pitching development is second to none. Mel Stottlemyre is an absolute wizard as a pitching coach, and Jesus Luzardo came out looking like the real deal. That looks to me like a stunning trade for the Marlins now. 2 months of Starling Marte for, 5 years of Jesus Luzardo? Looks sensational, but it looks right now really similar to 2021. And the difference was in 2020, they got out to a hot start, the Fish. They got out to the hot start. The COVID hit. And they were then playing all the scrubs for a couple of weeks while they waited for the guys to get back. But they were always ahead of playing over 500 ball. They kept the momentum. They were buyers at the deadline. If they start slow again here, I mean, we've got 4 games against the Phils. I think the Cardinals after that and the Braves after that. if they drop all three of them series, this team is in real trouble quick, and the fans will not come either. There's so much going on in the area. Like, all the other teams doing great. Dolphins will be
Yeah.
back around soon. It's game over
Yeah.
for the Marlins.
That's why I was saying it's important for them
Oh,
to come out of the gate looking solid. Otherwise, it'll hurt them at the box office, but also hurt them in the stands. You can't dig yourself too big of a hole, and
no.
when you dig yourself into a hole, you need all sorts of bursts of energy to get out of there. Maybe not enough bursts of energy. In fact, I think if they fall too far behind the Mets, the Philadelphia Phillies, the Braves, if they fall too far behind all of them, then I think the only thing that could give them the burst of energy to win the division is if they start having Built Bars, because Built Bars are the best tasting protein bars out there. Hey, look at Peter. I know you live over there in the UK. Do you have access to Built Bars there?
They don't ship them here, so I've been reading this copy for months now, getting
Oh,
enticed by these Built Bars. They sound wonderful.
oh, let me tell you something here.
Oh, baby.
I may have to send you some contraband Built Bars. You send us some hobnobs and stuff over from there, and we'll
You've got
send you
it.
some. But do you know what? Built Bars are better than hobnobs. Do you know why? Hobnobs are not good for you. They're delicious, but they're not good for you. Imagine something as delicious as a hobnob, but with the low calorie, high protein, low carbohydrate snack that it can be. If you not had the puffs, unbelievable. The first ever protein infused marshmallow. They're fluffy. They're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat. And they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Okay? None of this fake stuff. They're a fan favorite with great flavors that you haven't had because you haven't had the cinnamon churro, the coconut marshmallow, the banana cream pie. Do you know what, Peter? I'm jealous of you because you get to experience Built Bars for the first time, and I wish I could too. Now, let me tell you something. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams sugar, 4 grams net carb, 17 grams of protein. I know what you're saying. Cite your source. I'll tell you my source. It's at built.com. What you got to do is you scroll down to the macros chart. You're going to be blown away. High protein, low calorie, high fiber, low carb, great flavors, mint brownie, coconut almond. My personal favorite is raspberry because I love that tangy raspberry with the chocolate. But whatever, there's all sorts of tastes are out there. All sorts of tastes. And new this month, you got white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious. New flavors are coming out all the time. If they think of a flavor might be good, boom, they'll make it. That's what they do. They say, how do we make this delicious first? Then we'll make it healthy. I don't know how they do it. They do it every time. What are you going to do? What you got to do is you have to go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15, you get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, Peter Pratt, Locked On Marlins. We're recording this here in Los Angeles. It's the afternoon where you are. I think it's already tomorrow. And what's it like? What can you tell us about tomorrow? And I may have to go to, if you tell me some of the scores, I could go to BetOnline since you know the future.
This is it. I'm already into Thursday now. So yeah, we're into the future here now. It's 25 minutes to 1. I'm still out here rocking podcasts and whatever with you, Sully. So this is how I roll in the UK.
There you go. This is
I can tell you right now. I can already tell you, if you're going to put some BetOnline dough on it, get your money on the Marlins for this series win against the Phillies. Come on, baby.
Now you're talking. See, now you're talking.
Come on.
Hey, I just want to bring up one piece of non-Marlins baseball news that happened. We had Clayton Kershaw in his game against Minnesota threw 7 perfect innings and was pulled. And I know there's some people who are disappointed by that. It was like, oh, let him finish and everything like that. I'll tell you my opinion on it. Kershaw's coming off of major injuries that kept him out of the postseason last year. And a healthy Clayton Kershaw could have, on that Los Angeles roster, they may have won the division. They probably beat Atlanta in the league championship series. It's more important for the Dodgers to have Clayton Kershaw going deep in games in October than it is in April. And Kershaw has done everything a pitcher can in his career, including having a fine World Series. When they won the World Series, he won 2 of the games and pitched very, very well in that World Series. Thank you very much. In fact, he pitched really well in the World Series against the Astros, except for that one game in Houston. Bang, 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 bang. So he would have been the World Series MVP if it wasn't for bang, 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 bang. I'm just saying. So I personally don't care that they pulled him out of a perfect game. And he already has a no-hitter. So like all these different things, it's more important. Like you got to remember, a lot of these pitchers are still in spring training mode. So if you pushed a pitcher who's coming off of a major injury, who's not exactly a spring chicken, and you pushed him needlessly in an April game, I mean, we saw this is that, imagine if you did that and then Kershaw's hurt. I mean, to me, look at it's yes, the romance of him throwing a perfect game would have been fantastic. I'm sure Dodger fans will forget all about this if the Dodgers are playing deep in October and Kershaw's pitching. Your thoughts?
So listen. What we've seen thus far, first week of the season, all the pitchers are coming out with a pitch limit. So it is what it is. Like, great. What I'd say is the Dodgers, they won the game. Yeah. Kershaw got the W. That's the main thing. It isn't about perfectos. I know we all get excited about that because it doesn't happen that often and we all get a bit hyped about it. But listen, you can't have Kershaw, first start of the year, rolling out and being asked to go 110, 120 pitches coming off the back of this injury. Like, the Dodgers won the game. Take the W and roll on. Just be thankful that Kershaw's back and build him up. Like, I understand people want the drama. It's an entertainment sport, and that is entertaining going for a perfecto. Absolutely. But, the Dodgers are right. Use your heads. Protect your asset. He's a stud, but you got to protect him. Irrespective of if he had a perfecto going, a no-hitter, no nothing, 80 pitches is the limit. Clayton, after that, you're out of here, irrespective of how we're going. So,
I mean, if he let up a bloop single in the third, there's no conversation.
Absolutely.
And another thing is that since July 3rd, and I didn't want to bring up July 4th, I know it's a sore subject, but since July 3rd, Clayton Kershaw has pitched in 4 games. 4. And he was too injured to be on the postseason roster in last year. That it was too much of a risk to put him on there. What Dodger fans should be elated is that he's come back from a health uncertainty and looks like Clayton freaking Kershaw. The fact that I know a few Dodger. I'm here in LA. I know a few Dodger fans who are like, "Oh God, I hope he's okay. I hope he's okay going into this game." And I don't think the conversation they're having, like, "Hey, why did you let him pitch a perfect game?" He faced 21 batters and struck out, was it 13, 14 of them?
13, yeah.
Yeah, and so we're looking at, if you could have, when Clayton Kershaw was at his absolute apex, he was the best pitcher in baseball for a decade. And I'm not one of the people who worships the WAR stat. That's not my thing, but I don't poo-poo it. It's just, it's not, there's some people who look at it as the end all be all. Fine. I don't do that. But guess who has the highest WAR total in the history of the Dodger franchise? I'll give you a hint. His name rhymes with Brayton Bershaw.
I'm going with Clayton Kershaw.
Oh, you got it.
Whoa.
You got it. You won University Challenge. But here's the deal. The fact that you have him being back at even if he's at 2/3 the Clayton Kershaw from 2017, 2018, or whatever, oh my God. That's a weapon. And
Exactly.
You're already the go-to team. So maybe we all pump the brakes. It's like, hey, this is not the problem you thought you were going to have with Kershaw's first start. So, be happy that he's, you should be mad at the reliever who let up a hit.
Yeah, ex-Marlin, by the way.
Wait, who did let up the hit? I actually didn't see who let up the hit. It was
it was Alex Vesia or Vesia.
Oh, well, you know what? That guy's got an attitude.
The Marlins. See, the Marlins pitchers, they ruin everything.
There you go. There you go. Well, look at Peter Pratt and I have been playing telephone and email tag for a couple of months now. I wanted to have you on during the off season, and just there's a tiny bit of a time difference between Los Angeles and Leeds. But I'm so glad I was able to get you on the show. This was a lot of fun. We'll have you on again, especially certainly by the league championship series when it's going to be probably Dodgers Marlins. And I'll see if we can get some tickets and get you a cheap flight out from Leeds to LA. That's what a nice 17-hour flight, and that's.
Listen, I've got the Locked On credit card here ready to go. Don't you worry. So we'll expense that one back, no problem.
Wait a second, you have the what?
You don't know about that? Oh, right.
I've been here for 3 years. This is my.
This might just be
this is
an
my
international
fourth season.
thing.
This was my fourth season of Locked On. They have not been informed that we have a credit card account.
Might just be a UK thing. I don't know.
Oh my God! Yeah. Well, they're paying us in crypto, so.
Oh, there you go. Happy days.
Oh my
God!
Hope
you got the right one.
Just pay me. Just pay me in cash. Absolutely, pay me in cold hard cash. And let me tell you, I got some right there. There you go.
Look at that.
There's George Washington again. No offense. Peter Pratt. Where can people listen to your show and find you on the interwebs?
I mean, of course, you've already hyped it up. Locked On Marlins, new show. I've been hosting that since just before the lockout. So for those that didn't know, I accepted this new role. I thought, great. Locked On host sounds amazing. Daily podcasts. Perfect.
Yeah.
Pre-lockout, the Marlins. I was like my first ever week of the show. Traded for Jacob Stallings. Great. Trade for Joey Wendell. Great. Signed Avisel Garcia. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I love this job. Then the lockout came. And then it was a daily podcast through the lockout. I was like, boy, oh boy, only Peter Pratt would accept this role for this podcast at this time. But anyway, we're out of that now. So listen, guys, if you like your Marlins action, and the show is heavy on guests. It's a guest-heavy show, a bit like how you operate, Sully, right? Where it's very conversation with tons of guests. So that's how we roll. And if you want to get onto me on socials, I'm only a Twitter guy, really, and it's at Miami Marlins _UK. Don't forget that underscore. No TikToks, no Instagrams, none of that. Miami Marlins _UK.
All right, and you can follow us, this podcast at Locked On MLB Pods on both Twitter and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, and check me out on MySpace because I'm on MySpace. I'm in. Oh, great. You remember we were all on MySpace at one point. I don't even remember what that looked like. But I know what you look like, and I know what I look like. And sending our voice across a continent, across an ocean, and up an island with Peter Pratt, the biggest Marlins fan in all of Leeds. This has been Locked On MLB for the 14th day of April, 2022. Get your taxes in, everybody. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please, please call me Sully.